Hello again, algebra students. One more method of factoring polynomials. This is called factor by grouping. This is where you group pairs of terms together. You look for a common monomial that you could factor out from those pairs, and then you look for one of those binomial factors that we could factor out. So the first thing I want to draw your attention to is that this polynomial has 4 terms. We have not seen that before. So one hint when you see 4 terms is that you're going to have to use this method factoring by grouping. I noticed in the first 2 terms that they share a monomial of x squared. I noticed in the last 2 terms they share a factor of 5. So I'm almost thinking of it as grouping these 2 and then grouping these 2. So in these first 2 terms, since they share an x squared, I'm going to factor out the x squared right here. That leaves x plus 3. In these last 2 terms, I'm going to factor out the 5 I noticed they had in common, and that leaves x plus 3. And now we see that they share this common binomial of x plus 3. So I factor out x plus 3. That leaves x squared from the first term. It leaves positive 5 from the second term. X plus 3 cannot be factored anymore. X squared plus 5 cannot be factored anymore. So here is my factored form of this polynomial. Let's factor this polynomial. X to the third minus 6 plus 2x minus 3x squared. In this one, I'm going to have to change the order a little bit. I'm going to rewrite everything in decreasing order of exponents. So x to the third minus 3x squared plus 2x minus 6. Now it's a little easier to see. These first 2 terms share an x squared. These last 2 terms share a factor of 2. So I'm going to group these 2 together, and I'm going to group these 2 together. In my first grouping, I'm going to factor out x squared, and that leaves x minus 3. In the second grouping, I'm going to factor out a positive 2, and that leaves x minus 3. And there we go. There is our common binomial that we can factor now. So I'm going to factor out that binomial x minus 3. That leaves x squared from the first term, and it leaves this positive 2 from the second term. I need to make sure that these are factored completely. X minus 3 is. X squared plus 2 is also. There is nothing that I can factor out of x squared plus 2. So here's my final answer in my factored form for that polynomial. Now there is another way to group this expression, so there's not just one right way of doing this. The second way that I'm going to group this is I'm going to put the x to the third and the 2x together because I see that they share an x. And then I'm going to rewrite the negative 3x squared and the negative 6 because I see that they share a negative 3. So in these first 2 terms, I'm going to factor out an x. That's going to leave x squared plus 2. In the last 2 terms, I'm going to factor out a negative 3, and that is going to leave x squared and a positive 2 because I'm dividing this by a negative 3. And again, here's the common binomial that they share. So now I can factor out x squared plus 2. That leaves x in the first term, and it leaves negative 3 in the second term. And you'll notice this is the same exact answer we got grouping them a different way previously. So here's my final answer. So that is factoring by grouping. I wanted to leave you with this. This is a nice summary of all the different ways that we have factored polynomials so far in Chapter 9. So take a look at this, and I hope that it helps you.